brilliant. And then we can get underway. So welcome to this session, everybody. We're going to be spending just under an hour talking about marketing for the care sector in this masterclass, but specifically actually attracting residents and their families, but also employer branding and recruitment marketing. There's a massive crossover now between the need from an HR and a recruitment perspective and the skills and output of the marketing department. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that and how we can, I guess, combat this recruitment crisis that we're seeing with a crossover between recruitment and marketing as well. So your first little task of the day, feel free to reach out, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. You can scan that QR code and it should take you to my LinkedIn profile, or indeed, if you just search for me on LinkedIn, you should find me. My name's Dan Jenkins. I'm now commercial director actually at Wagada Digital. I've been with the company for around 6.5 years. I relocated a couple of years ago and launched our second office in Cheltenham. And as I say, do feel free to pick up the conversation with me on LinkedIn, or indeed you've got my Twitter handle there as well. I'm a big LinkedIner, so I'm more than happy having conversations and answering any questions that you may have over on there. But look, it's not all about me. We're an award-winning digital marketing agency. We've been established now for 12 years. We have 26 team members across 3 offices. So we've got our original and flagship office in St Albans in Hertfordshire, our second office here in Cheltenham, and then we also have a London office as well. We're a team of specialists with expert in-depth knowledge. So we work across a wide range of tactics, from search engine optimization, digital PR and social media, right the way through to full website development. We're HubSpot partners as well, which means that we have a whole digital transformation team that build websites in HubSpot and WordPress, but also look after sales and marketing alignment, and specifically brands that are utilizing HubSpot as a CRM. And finally, we work with a wide range of B2B and B2C clients. When you get this, I'll send a bit of a link. You can see some of the brands that we've worked with on our website. Do feel free to look at those case studies in your own time. But we do also have a specific specialism within the care sector. I mentioned B&M Care. We've worked with them from both a B2C and also an employer branding perspective. Recently supported them with the build of the full careers portal, careers website, because obviously, employer branding and recruitment, as I say, is fundamentally important to organizations within your sector. But we've also looked after some exciting digital transformation and website builds for a complete plethora, a wide range of organizations globally. Finally, before we crack on, this tool might be of use to you, so I wanted to get it in at the beginning. You can again scan that QR code or hit a link when I send the follow-up, but we have got a guide to digital strategy specifically for the care sector, so do feel free to tap into that. It's just very, very useful for any in-house, perhaps marketing managers or even marketing executives that are looking to begin their journey and skill up a little bit, so don't hesitate to take a little look at that. There you go. And the link will be, as I say, in the follow-up. So finally, we're going to be at the Care Show in London. So I'm not sure if any organisations here are going to be attending the Care Show in London this year at the latter part of April at the XL, but you'll be able to come and meet us there. So we will have a stand at the Care Show. We're going to be exhibiting, and we look forward to meeting our partners there. Sorry, I'm not sure why, but my Canva is jumping about a little bit. Right. So what are we going to cover in this session? Well, we're going to look at some marketing and sales alignment. We're going to look at creating new routes to market, effective marketing tactics within the care sector, the importance of employer branding, and how to attract and retain the best staff in the care sector. Can I just check, is my deck, the presentation, still filling the screen for you? My presentation started jumping about for me a bit there, but do you still have it? Brilliant. So let's start a little bit with marketing and sales, because having worked with a number of brands within your sector, within the care sector, I think one of the biggest issues often facing organizations is the juggling act between marketing and sales. You tend to find that, that primary role, that head of department, it could be a sales manager, but often you might have a marketing and sales specialist, a marketing and sales manager, or a marketing and sales director. And getting that balance right is obviously a huge, huge challenge. I want to share this model with you, which is just a classic marketing model. It's the AIDA model. But you tend to find that it's going to be much more valuable with considered purchases and considered investments, whether that be for a physical product or indeed an experience or a service. And The biggest, most important factor when marketing within the care sector is about ensuring that you are nurturing your target market along that journey. A lot of people, and we saw it more and more during the pandemic, the lead time from the first piece of awareness and interest and engagement with the need for perhaps care, dementia care, family care, suddenly started to extend. So it wasn't perhaps as short as it was before. So even though previously people might have delayed things, looked after family members, done things at home, more and more with the impact of COVID, we found that people were delaying that. We as an agency and as marketing experts started to attribute that to a lot of different things as well. We saw the slowdown of the property market. We saw perhaps the concept of inheritance being delayed. We saw a number of factors that could be leading to a complete change in the marketplace and the thought process of the consumer. Add to that the challenges surrounding PPE and negative press and sorry, I'm just admitting somebody to the room. You can imagine how very, very quickly the whole kind of attitude towards the need for care and the timescales and the decision making that people take in terms of making that inquiry, engaging with a brand, and then taking it to the next level are significant and can take a lot longer. So, in all of our marketing and some of the tips that I'm going to be giving you, I really want you to think about every stage of this process. We don't want just to be marketing when somebody has that desire, when there's that clear need. We want to be ensuring that we're getting in front of them when they have an awareness, when a family member is starting to struggle, when they're going to be looking locally because they're seeing the early signs of dementia. For example, is your brand prevalent during that process, during that period in the build-up, and not just at the moment where they can't wait any longer and a clear need is there? And then another little thing that I want you to think about is how this is a cycle. So that model I just showed you, that simple AIDA model, it's a triangle, it's a funnel, but the problem with it is it's one way. But I want you to consider the nurturing process of how we can market as more of a cycle. So this, very broadly speaking, starts with strangers, prospects, and brings it right the way through to ultimately customers and promoters. But I want you to focus in on the middle bit. It's about attracting, engaging, and delighting. And if you do those three things, you will ultimately see growth. But the point is that it doesn't just happen in the build-up and at the point of engagement and at the point of inquiry. Think about how you're marketing to the decision-making unit, even after the point of somebody engaging with your organization for care. So what do I mean by that? Well, the key bit is on the if you're looking at that screen, the left-hand side, the delighting, the promoters, all of that wonderful referral and word for mouth. But how are you being front of mind for the families of people that are perhaps engaging with care? So are you reaching out to their daughters, their sons, even their husbands and wives? Are you giving them marketing content, marketing touch points that's going to enable them to reference and refer? Now, the point I'm trying to make is that there are a number of different ways to be approaching your marketing, but very, very often we fall into the simple linear vision of the here and now. We do what we always do. Oh, we're running an event. We've got an event coming up. It's in 6 weeks' time. We need to advertise it. We need to market it. We need to get people in. The event comes and goes. Maybe you didn't hit your numbers. Oh, you do it again in 3 months' time. You do it again 3 months after that. Have a think about a much longer term nurturing process and how all of these touch points work intrinsically so that you can build a cycle like this and actually get it working more to your advantage. Got a bit of a screenshot in here because I think the most important thing as well, and that I've worked with a number of organizations, and actually in both the care sector and also the education sector. And the most interesting thing on those, especially with the two ends of the scale, early years education and care, the similarities are incredible. The demands, the needs, the recruitment struggles, the marketing tactics, there's a huge crossover between care and early years education. And so often a big drop off happens at point of inquiry or point of lead. It's amazing how many times I've worked with brands that are utilizing something like trusted care and they're looking at their metrics and they're saying, well, hang on a minute, we had X number of phone calls. We took 50 phone calls in the month of January. However, we only have follow up, or, these ones took 72 hours for us to get back to them. These ones took this, these ones dropped off. It's amazing how much is lost from point of inquiry. And the most important thing is to think about if you have a system in place, if you're either engaging a whole kind of family care team, a customer care and relationship care team, or a whole number of touch points that are after that point of initial inquiry. What is really happening here? Now, this screenshot just shows you the type of CRM that you could be working with, where you can start to have tasks, to-dos, reminders, triggers. If somebody in the team, if somebody who's answering the phone, a salesperson, is not capturing that lead, is not getting that upfront information, are triggers going to managers and other people, so that you can make sure that you're really capturing every possible inbound lead. Because then what you might want to do, and I'm going to give you this. This is a template. And again, I'm giving you a very top level thing here, but then we're going to start to drill down into tactics. It's really, really important when you're looking at sales and marketing alignment, especially when you're dealing into a sort of a B2C organization, to make sure that you're all using the same language. Are you all talking about the same things? If somebody says, we had an inquiry, we had 20 inquiries this month, is that correct? Because very quickly you might start asking some questions. Well, who were those 20 inquiries? Well, 4 were job seekers, 3 were a sales call, 2 were families that were just sort of, testing the waters. 1 was, and very, very quickly you realize, well, actually, we didn't really have 20 inquiries. We had 7, perhaps. So it's really important that as an organization, you are using the same naming conventions and that you are all aligned on that. So I've shown you a bit of an example here, which you could then take this when I send this over to you, and you could basically very quickly, even just with a printout and a pen or on your own document, turn this into something that works for you. So for example, do you have a prospecting and a sales pipeline? Do you have an initial prospecting piece, which is right at the start of the process, and you have a sales piece, which comes after that? And then you could start to assign the terminology for that. A new lead, perhaps, an engaged lead, somebody who's gone beyond just inquiring, and then they're qualified. Perhaps that's the point that they're marketing qualified, that you've decided, oh, actually, this is somebody, this is a person that we need to be talking to. And perhaps from there, they become a new opportunity before you go into a meeting stage. They get some, are they at confirmation stage as to if they want to go ahead? And then have you closed this? Have you secured the care? Whether you're an organization, a charitable organization, or a private organization, you do need to consider, are we all on the same page here? Are we all using the same terminology throughout this process so that we can start to quantify success and make sure that we're focusing on the right things? Otherwise, we're getting overwhelmed with data and numbers, and we're not actually looking at the true picture. Good. So I've given you a very kind of top level look there in terms of, I guess, a cyclical way of marketing and considering how we reach people at different stages of the process and a bit of that through line from sales and marketing. There's a lot we're going to cover, right? So bear with me in this hour. So I'm now going to talk to you about the importance of content and rich informational content and content marketing. Quick show of hands. Anybody familiar with this phrase, Google Eat? Has anybody heard of Google Eat? Fine if not, but it's no, so that's absolutely fine. So listen, this is really, really valuable, specifically within care. Google often releases algorithm updates, okay, and these updates are often, they're not forewarned. Years ago, they used to really say what it was about. Now it's up to us. It's up to marketing experts to figure out the results of an algorithm update and what it means. Google released a major update. It was a couple of years ago now, called EAT, and it stands for Expertise, Authority, and Trust. And this was actually a massive algorithm update, and it specifically impacted the healthcare sector, but it also impacted wider sectors and other organizations and types of websites that might have a synergy or an alignment with healthcare. Why is that? Well, because it came away from the focus on some, perhaps let's call them old school kind of SEO tactics, just purely focusing on keywords, keyword density, target keywords, a lot of content rules of old. And it focused very, very heavily on, as a website, are we doing these 3 things? Is there evidence across the site and elsewhere on the internet that our brand is doing all of this? And it's actually very, very holistic. So all of the things that I'm going to talk through and the importance of getting them right play into this, okay, from a content marketing and an SEO perspective. So this is a really useful visual. I've taken this from another organization because it's just it just kind of sums it up. But you can see that when I send it over. Think about your websites and your website's content, and are you working off content hubs and cluster content? So what do I mean by that? Well, it's not just a case of necessarily having 40 blog articles that are completely disassociated and just rolling them out. Think about having a key core piece of content. What is this core piece of content that maybe is 1,000, 1,500 words, something that you can really kind of, hang your hat on. And then you can have a series of articles that come off that are connected to that are, say, 500 words. The point is that you're cross-linking from these. Now, it's an informational journey for the customer, for those that are engaging with your brand and engaging with your website's blog content, but it's also massively important from an SEO perspective. It gives you that depth of content. So if you're talking about, being authoritative, being trustworthy, sort of educating and explaining to your target demographic, are you structuring up your content in this way? The other thing is it's also massively efficient. One of the biggest challenges when I speak to sales and marketing managers in, to be honest, 9 out of 10 sectors, one of the biggest challenges is time. They always say time. They say, I know what's in front of me. I know what we want to do, but we don't have the time. We know we should be doing a couple of blog articles a month. We just don't have the time. Well, as soon as you start to put something like this in play, it can actually be a really, really efficient way of working because you don't have to rewrite the book every time. If you look at the color code on that, they're all around the same theme. So you identify your theme or your ultimate topic, and then you build content off that. So if you look at the blue, the pink, the green, those could be 3 different themes. Let's say you're an elderly care home. You might have one theme which is on living with people with dementia. You might have another theme that is heavily focused on how you can support families and loved ones during difficult times. There's so many different ways you can approach this. But the point I'm trying to make is once you've identified your themes, you can build your topic off the back of that. And it means that you don't have to rewrite the book. This is a really kind of basic example, but it's quite a nice one. So I've included it in here. If you look at this one on the left, you might have a whole theme. Let's say you're a health and fitness organization. You might have a whole theme on kind of workout routines, but then off the back of that, you might have a series of connected articles, all interconnected. Workout routines to increase strength, workout routines to get abs, workout routines with dumbbells. Trust me, I am not the sort of person to spend my time reading workout routines to, because it's not in my. I'm a dad of one on the way next week. I wish I had the time, but my wife, who's a sports enthusiast and a massage therapist, does. And so, and watching her engage with content shows that she will go through each one. And beyond that and the user experience perspective, as I say, you've got the SEO benefit, and it comes back to that EAT. Are we demonstrating our expertise? Is it trustworthy? This is a nice example from, I referenced B&M. I will do a couple of times, our client. But you can see here, so often organizations in the care sector, their content marketing plan tends to fall very heavily down the route of news. It very heavily goes to PR, which is, look, PR is fundamentally important. Do not get me wrong. PR is important within your sector from both a traditional PR, but also heavily a digital PR perspective. But very often our own blog, our own content marketing can tend to go down updates, news, staff insight. And again, whilst there is value in that, are you thinking about that EAT? Are you demonstrating your expertise? Are you being trustworthy? Are you talking about how respite care supports family members? Are you talking about actually how dementia affects the brain and helping family members understand that? Means testing for residential care, the difference between care homes and nursing homes. There's so much valuable content in here. This is an excellent content plan because it comes away from quite simply, we just celebrated our X birthday, or did you know about this within our home? Now, whilst that is valuable, these content pillars are just as important. And also then, once you start to identify these pillars, you can build a PR and a digital PR plan off the back of that. So as I say, it's not just about going, well, our PR story is that we're running an event next month. It's actually, we did a questionnaire, we did a report, we tapped into communities across Gloucestershire. We found out the 5 biggest pain points for family members supporting somebody who needs to go into care. And then when you distribute that to press, online organizations, very, very quickly, you start to get the exposure and you start to get the backlinks and all that wonderful SEO stuff, as well as the PR and the natural PR that can come off the back of that. So there's a big crossover here. Okay, I want us to try and not think about these tactics too much in isolation. You need to start to see how if you get one right, it plays into all of your activity elsewhere as well. I'm going to share this tool with you. There's barely a webinar or a presentation that I will do where I will not, excuse me, where I will not share this tool. It's called Answer the Public. You can find it online. Um, it's free. You can have something like I think three free searches a day, but I think it's a day, but to be honest, you will get value from just using it for that. Okay. There's also paid versions of it. It's now been acquired by this chap you can see on the screen, Neil Patel, who has a number of tools and platforms, but it's very, very valuable because, forgive me, this is a bit small, but I'll sort of talk you through it. It's very valuable because it gives you the questions, the type of informational content that internet users and prospective customers are searching for online. So it's answer the public, and it's less keywords in terms of services like, elderly care near me or respite care near me or domiciliary care. It's more focusing on what are the types of questions that people are answering. So you can see here, I typed in literally, I think the keyword dementia, and it starts to give you are, can, how, will, why. Are dementia and Alzheimer's the same thing? Great question. As somebody who's had family members who have suffered Alzheimer's and dementia, you start to need to understand the nuances of that terminology. Are dementia patients aggressive? You could have some very strong content humanizing dementia and explaining people's frustrations, how they feel, what they're going through, helping family members understand. It's nurturing and caring content. It could be of value to not only prospective customers, but also the families of those that are already utilizing your services. Now, don't forget that, as I say, it's just important from a marketing perspective. Are you marketing to those who have already engaged and bought into your organization and not just those that on discovering you for the first time? Look, there's so many lovely things in here. How dementia affects individuals, great content marketing opportunities, even things about sleep. But you see where I'm going. And when you use this sort of tool, you could pump in a couple of phrases. So it doesn't just have to be dementia. You could put in dementia care. You could put in, live-in care, respite care, things or whatever it is that your organization specializes in, and start to understand the types of questions. It's so useful. And this is even before you go into a much, much deeper content marketing plan. Something that I want to share with you here as well is people often say, well, what volume of content should I be going for? What word count? Well, look, realistically, anything under kind of 300 words isn't ranked by Google. It's not really crawled in and sort of seen as rankable content. I tend to recommend that for any content marketing, for a blog, for any piece of content that you want to be visible, you want to be targeting around 500 words as a minimum. Now, that, to put it in perspective, is around one side of A4 on a sort of a decent font, you know. But coming back to those content pillars, longer length but good content stands a much better opportunity to rank. So this is a nice report on the average content word count of the top 10 results. And you can see it sits there between that 1,000 and 2,000 words. So again, this is where you can start to think about that really valuable content where you go, we might have one really cool piece of content that's 1,500 words, but then off that, we're going to have these 500 words, 500 word blogs that link through to it, all on the same themes. And this may help you with that as well. I took this from HubSpot, but again, it's just something where you could map this out. You could start to think about the informational content and think, because so often the hardest thing with this is getting it off the ground. You might have a copywriter or a marketing executive or yourself who needs to start building out a form of content plan. Well, start to take a step back. What are people thinking or feeling? What's their action at this point? What's their touch point with the organization? What do we want to change about this step? How are we going to make this change? And start to put steps, but perhaps content marketing into these places so that you can make sure that you're building your content marketing in line with what the customer wants. Look, this is not this is a system that will help you gain time, that will help you be more efficient. I don't want you to overcomplicate this. I think it's about looking at it and going, right, how can I achieve what I want to achieve, but perhaps in a slightly more focused way. And coming back again to the EAT, the trust perspective is massively important. People now are looking at online reviews, 10 a penny. Our online research is massive. It amazes me how many organizations I speak with, not just in the care sector, but elsewhere as well, who have perhaps been around for 10, 12 years. They might only have 3 or 5 Google reviews. I know some organizations that have been present for years and have a particularly strong profile might only have 1 or 2. Well, guess what? You get one-star review. All of a sudden, you're a one-star business. And it is so important from a reputation management perspective to ensure that you are considering your online reputation management and digital PR to make sure that you have all of these trust signals. Are you on review sites? There are care. I work with an eye specialist, and it was really, really important that we got all the trust signals on the sector specific review aggregate site as well. So don't just think about the big players like Trustpilot and Google. Of course, they're important, but think about the trust that you have elsewhere. This is another client of ours, Abbott's Care. The interesting thing about this, I wanted to show you this screenshot because there are so many trust signals on this one single screenshot, and some of them are subliminal. The first one is in the logo, established in 1995. There's your first trust signal. Nearly 20 years of business. You've got your Care Quality Commission. You've got your CQC overall rating of outstanding. See the report. You can go and access that. And again, we got here. Where's mine? 20 years, nearly 30 years. Gosh, I'm showing my age now. I still think I was born in the 80s and I still think of that as 20 odd years ago. 25 years of trusted, compassionate home care. Founded Abbott's Care in 1995 with a mission to provide the highest quality of home care and put service users in charge of their own choices. Think about those core messages as well. Are we coming back to EAT, expertise, authority, trust? Are we really demonstrating throughout our site and elsewhere across other channels and platforms as well? That we should be chosen from our competitors across all these areas. Now, when you're looking at social media, the first thing that's going to be so important is to encourage your team to be brand ambassadors across social media. One of the biggest challenges is often when you have people either on site or working with patients and customers, and it's so important that they become ambassadors, that they help you on this journey. It shouldn't just be seen as something that comes from top. Again, got a shout out to Care. Their TikTok feed is incredible. Like, you look at this TikTok feed, and you might start and look, well, it's really hard to get on TikTok for Care. I'm trying to think of the best content. How can I resonate with, millennials and Gen Z and people that are soon to be, their parents might need our services. How am I going to resonate with those people? Well, through really honest, here's a buzzword, authentic and human content that is going to resonate with the target demographic, and ultimately humanize your brand. B&M Care have had video content that has gone viral in terms of creative, innovative, and, as I say, really, really human social media content. It's kind of, how can I put it? It's challenging perceptions of those who need care. It challenges our perceptions of the elderly. It challenges and brings to life perhaps the way that people are cared for, ultimately looked after. And it does this number of ways, as I say, engaging the team, engaging the staff, but it gives you that glass box. Okay, it's content that gives glass box to the fun and the community that can happen at the homes, and the humor and the joy that is in these videos as people have become involved with them at home just as much as the actual promotion of it online. It's been a great activity and a great exercise, and you can see here the difference between an organization that might not have their team being brand ambassadors, might not be completely on board with creating content across social media, versus a team that have become brand ambassadors and are happy to really get the most out of social media at the homes. Forgive me, I'm just omitting a few people. You'll also find yourself doing a bit of a dance in terms of the balance of content, and things like social media and Google advertising may well and probably should very well fall within your B2C marketing plan. But what you need to consider is where you're putting your efforts. Are you reaching the right people? Are you targeting and tailoring your messaging? Are you making sure, coming back to all of those touch points, that you're meeting people on the right point in their journey? And so I want you to think very, very heavily of the balance of these tactics and how all of these tactics can come together. I'm not going to go deep into social media and deep into Google Ads because I could do a whole webinar just based on this. But the most important thing is, as an organization, is to identify your sweet spot with these tactics to make sure that your budget is being spent in the right areas. So some of those core tactics are likely to include PPC, social media, paid and organic, PR, SEO. But where is the balance? More budget doesn't always mean more leads, doesn't always mean more inquiries. And what do I mean by that? Well, so much of it is cause and effect. So much of it is, well, we ramp up our budget here. What do we see there? You may find that you need to find the right balance. If you just look at a standard Google search landing page, I've listed here where before the scroll, you've got basically your top three are paid. So you type care home near me, you get these three paid listings. The middle section now is a mixture of paid and organic. So that is what's called the local pack. That is your Google local pack. You want to think about obviously being visible in there, but paid ads and Google PPC can also gain visibility in there now as well. And then right at the bottom, you can see the first kind of, organic listing. But what's the point I'm trying to make? Well, the point I'm trying to make is that whilst, you need to consider your PPC spend. Are you spending your budget in the right areas? And we've worked with organizations where we've identified, especially when we have to streamline spend, we identify the best performing organic keywords and we reduce spend on those and we ramp up the paid spend on the ones that haven't got the same level of organic visibility. We keep this kind of balance going, okay? Then when those keywords increase in visibility through SEO efforts, you start to move budget elsewhere. In a perfect world, you would target it all. You would ramp up your budget. You'd be seen in paid, you'd be seen in organic, and it can help with click-through rates. But the point I'm trying to make here is that we don't always have a budget that suggests that the sky is the limit. And so you need to think about what you're doing on paid social, whether you're hoping to generate awareness, an interest, and a desire, and what you're trying to do with PPC. Are you creating an action? Are you getting a hook? Are you reaching people that are further down the sales funnel? And start to understand the relationship between all of those tactics, because we need to stop just looking at them in isolation. So before we move on to recruitment, marketing, and employer branding, I also want to leave you with some goals and some targets here in terms of how you can actually set up for success. I've talked a lot about these different stages of a funnel, these different stages of a cycle. Have a little think about the metrics that you want to put in place to measure that. More and more, GA4, the new Google Analytics, is giving us insight and data in terms of engagement, in terms of how people are connecting with our brands. So you want to think about that you're putting the right metrics in place to make sure that you're succeeding in the right areas of that funnel. You'll have this, again, as I say, that strategy template. I'll make sure it's you can have that in the follow-up. So I hope this is resonating so far. What we're going to do now for about the next 20 minutes is we're going to start to move on to employer branding and employer branding for the care sector. We will have some questions at the end. I will also stay on after the webinar. So the webinar will finish on time, but I will also stay on and answer any questions if anybody wants to do that after the session. So look, we are in the midst of a recruitment crisis. We've got labour shortages. We've got a cost of living crisis and higher wages. We've had the great resignation post-COVID-19 and a shift in employees' needs, the old world versus the new world. Interestingly, I was at the nursery and care managers show in London just before Christmas, and the queue out the door for anything regarding a recruitment need was extraordinary. Any talk that was focused on recruitment and the need for recruitment as opposed to the operational runnings of an organization shows how much this is a sector-wide issue. So if you feel that you're facing challenges, I have no doubt that you are not alone. In this visual, you can see that kind of old world where we worked to make a living, we commuted, we valued benefits, and we juggled work and life. The biggest challenge that we've got now is that we've moved towards purpose, work-life balance. All of that is so important, but the money and the benefits are still important as well. So often we think that people now want the work-life balance and the perks and the purpose above everything else. The truth is that it's only added to the pot of needs. Whilst we battle a cost of living crisis, people are literally looking at, at the pounds, shillings, and pence as well. So you need to consider that you're offering people that opportunity. Your head office teams, are you making sure that they have the opportunity to work hybrid, to work remotely? What are the benefits? What are the things that you're putting in place? And what's the solution? Well, ultimately, it's employer branding. So an employer brand is a set of attributes and qualities, often intangible, that makes a company distinctive and attractive. So your culture feeds into that. What's your attitude towards diversity and inclusion? How are you ensuring that you're putting things in place at your organization to make sure that you have the right workplace culture? What are the ways to connect team members, the events? I mentioned sort of D&I. How are you making sure that everything in terms of the working balance of communities and people within your organization sings, and it makes it a place that people want to come and work, not a place that they have to come and work? Put yourselves in their shoes. What is it that they want? Somebody raised a challenge on another webinar. Literally, I was talking about this the other day, about the fact that some locations were very, very challenging to get to. And that was a really difficult thing from a recruitment perspective. And how could we make sure that we resonated with people that found it hard to get to our locations? And some of the thoughts that we were bringing to the table included changing working hours by an hour each way to avoid rush hours. So if they need to take public transport or find other routes, is it an 8 a.m. and a 4 p.m. finish rather than a 9 p.m. and a 5? We talked about carpools, shared driving opportunities, so many creative ways, scooter schemes you could think about, but there are so many ways that you can think about getting in the shoes of your customer and making sure that as an organization, you're demonstrating that you're looking at it from their perspective. If the benefits are not always financially tangible, that's where the perks become vitally important. Do not lose sight of training and development and your attitude towards the individual. And we can learn from some bigger players here. So if you look at, I'm going to show you some examples with some particularly strong messaging, and some specifically within the care sector. But if you look at kind of Lloyd's Banking Group, for example, they do a really good job of tapping into exactly what it is. Why join us? Because of flexible working, because of well-being. The list goes on. But do you have this content? You can see across the top, it talks about learning and development, culture and inclusion. Are you breaking this down with content pillars for each? This is a nice example from another one of our clients in a different sector, but I wanted to share it because they invest very heavily in time and resource in terms of employer branding and recruitment marketing. So the messaging that runs through from a B2B marketing perspective is equally as powerful in their employer branding and their recruitment marketing as well. Our culture allows us to adapt and face any situation. We see that delivering against our purpose is directly responsible for helping success. This is what makes us culture first. Some of those key phrases that are coming through there. Don't forget, it's absolutely okay to showcase that work is a challenge. Working in the care sector, any organization in the care sector can be hugely challenging, but it's also going to be massively rewarding. So don't be afraid to demonstrate that, to let people know. I mentioned Abbott's Care earlier. We are here to make a meaningful day-to-day difference to the lives of people in our communities. That is such a powerful message from a marketing and a B2C marketing perspective, but equally from an employer branding perspective, because it resonates with communities and families, but it also resonates with the type of people that they want to work with them. We believe it's essential for our customers and partners to understand who we are, what drives us to do what we do. Our vision is more than just a statement. It directs our actions, shapes our values, and inspires us to make a positive impact in our communities. Now, that is an organization that I want to be a part of. Do you see what I mean? So you need to start thinking about that core kind of employer value proposition, the EVP. What is it that we offer to employees? And we base that on our values. But you might want to do an exercise where you ask the staff, what does working for this organization mean to you? How are we different? We've done an exercise recently at Wagada. We have 4 core values: passionate, flexible, honest, and human. And we work with teams to identify what those values meant to them. And it's extraordinary because they mean different things to different people. For some people, being passionate meant, wearing your heart on your sleeve, working all hours to get the job done no matter what. But to others, it was about collaboration, teamwork, guiding, driving junior members of the team. It's so interesting because if you work with your team on values and purpose, you start to really build out the tangible benefits of why other people should come and work for your organization. So don't lose sight of that, and don't lose sight of the impact that your team can have. Apologies, and I'm giving you a lot here, but I'm quite a pace, but I could do this all day. So we're going to focus it in on the next 20 minutes, and then hopefully there'll be some nuggets that you can take away. This is a nice example. I mentioned earlier the challenges facing the childcare and early years sector and the crossover between the wider care sector and healthcare and elderly care. And this is a lovely example of a client of ours all about children, where we developed the whole employer branding recruitment marketing campaign, which was all about children, nothing without you. And that was the core message. That was what everything hung its hat on. We used the statement, we are nothing without you, in other placements. But the ultimate employer branding campaign was all about children, nothing without you. But the point is we developed huge volumes of content and ensured that lined up everything lined up in terms of job ads through to um, the informational content, the inspirational content. The same with B&M Care. They have a very healthy content plan of why individuals should choose to work with B&M Care. And then they have the website and the recruitment marketing functionality to make sure that they can effectively service that community with well-structured jobs, clear job ads, high quality content, everything SEO'd, the increase in visibility and engagement, and ultimately applications off the back of this was extraordinary. So the point is, if you get all of these things right, it can make a massive, massive difference. So where do you use this messaging? Where do you bring it all together? Well, ultimately across all channels, as I just touched upon. Are we consistently speaking to the person? If you do this, if you join us, our promise to you, what we will give to you. Only when you start doing that will you start to really make a meaningful difference, I think, in the recruitment, marketing, and employer branding journey for those that are looking for your brand. Because don't forget, if they're not looking to come and work for you, then chances are they may be looking to come and work with a competitor in the same geographic area. So how are you going to stand out from those organizations? How do your messages make sense throughout the customer journey? Now, these are some real objectives that were the brand. Obviously, the brand is unnamed, but it gives you an idea. They had a challenge where they wanted to reduce the time to hire by 20% in 6 months. They wanted to increase page views to recruit. Ultimately they wanted to reduce the time to hire by 20% in 6 months. So what we found there was that the biggest issue was after um, it was the process post application. People were dropping off. They were getting applications, but they weren't getting the journey wasn't strong enough to keep them all the way through that recruitment marketing process. So then you start to think about the touch points and the things that you put in play for that. Other was to do with engagements and applications. So we wanted to increase page views to recruitment landing pages by 25%. We wanted to reach the right people. Are we segmenting our messaging effectively? Are we making sure that we're resonating? And this is a nice map that can help you sort of start to plan that in. So this thing at the bottom, if you look there, it's called RACE, the RACE framework, another classic theoretical model. But all you need to worry about is how you can apply it within your organization. So reach, act, convert, engage. Those 4 kind of key areas of marketing. These are incredibly powerful from a recruitment, marketing, and employer branding perspective as well. And start to think about what is playing into those parts of the journey. So the website, the SEO, the jobs boards and listings, paid social media, is that all about reach? Interestingly, just very, very quickly, paid social media, it's changed a lot in the last couple of years at a number of levels, but one of the biggest challenges from recruitment is that you can't segment as well as you used to be able to. It's a much broader reach. So if you're considering running paid social media advertising campaigns for recruitment, think much more broadly. Is it for our apprenticeship schemes? Is it for a whole wide age demographic? Is it a brand awareness campaign? Because then you want to start to think about other tactics further down the funnel that are going to be more benefit in that RACE framework and how you apply them within your organization. So as I say, if you are considering these tactics, previously things like paid social media could have been very, very valuable to heavily remarket, whereas now you want to start to think of some of these channels sitting a little bit further up the funnel, more about the awareness and the engagement. But again, this is another employer branding client. And I want you to just draw your attention to the right-hand side here, which is an excellent example of segmented messaging. So Churchill Group, they have a number of organizations within the group, but they work across the UK. And we have a strong employer branding campaign that's firing off all cylinders. But a key part of that is this section here. There's content that is tailored towards career starters, career changers, an experienced workforce, ex-military. We identified the skills crossover for people that had project management and team skills within the military and were ex-military looking for a career change. And then you can start to build out your content fully focused. So have you then got dedicated landing pages, jobs for career changers, looking for something different, find a new career niche at Churchill. You scroll down this, it's got heavy content, but it also crosses through to the functioning website in terms of the available roles. And you start to segment the roles more specifically then, to those segments of the market. M&S do this quite nicely here, I think. This is a nice example we often use when we're talking about good employer branding. Look at the colors, look at the brand. It's still M&S, but it doesn't actually feel quite like the M&S that I visualize when I go on the high street. But it's speaking to it's for the grad program. So it's speaking to a Gen Z, potentially now coming up Gen X kind of generation, and going, look, how do we resonate with this graduate social media users and build out the visuals that stay on brand, but make sure that we are very, very heavily speaking to those individuals. And you need to really, really consider that. More often than not, as an organization, we lose sight of who we're talking to, and we take a step back and we look at our job ads and we go, God, you know what? Then they're really not inspiring. We're not reaching, resonating. There's no passion in there. So you really want to think about going back to square one, and building the messaging and building the content plan out from there. So what are the 4 core things there from an employer branding and a recruitment marketing perspective? Well, ultimately, you need to establish those recruitment objectives. So again, have a little think before you start wildly going, we have a recruitment crisis. We've got more, I don't know, residents or clients or prospective patients than we can handle. Take a step back and go, why is that? Is it because they're saying no at point of job offer? Is it because they're not turning up to interview? Is it because we're not getting enough applications? Is it because we're not getting applications from the right people? Look, it sounds basic what I'm saying, but truthfully, it's kind of the things that we often lose sight of, and we sit looking at the screen, looking at the bigger picture. Of course, we need to take a big picture approach, but we can only do that if we get to the root issue facing us. So then we establish those recruitment objectives, and we start by going, right, well, we want to increase engagement reach. We want to increase volume of applications. We want to reduce the time from application to first interview. And you can start to really make those, to use some classic management terminology now, those marginal gains, those incremental wins, but that ultimately you may need to do a bit of all of these to start to, see success. Ultimately, then, are you creating a solid EVP? What is my employer value proposition? Why choose us over another organization within the care sector, or even another organization altogether? I mentioned the crossover again with early years and care. And when I was at the nursery managers and care managers show, and there's a valid reason. It's because people can cross over from those sectors as well. So think, are we resonating with people perhaps in the education sector? Are we getting messaging out there that's going, right, well, come and take on a career in care? Maybe working in nurseries isn't for you. You don't want to work in this environment or with this or that, but actually your skills will be really, really good in this sector. And are you speaking with them? And in order to do that, you need to develop powerful messaging and then decide on the tactics that you are going to adopt in order to get there. Fab. I've had a couple of questions come through privately, so I'm going to address these in a moment and also open it up to any further questions. Again, an hour seems to fly by, but I hope there's been a lot of value in that, and I hope it resonates perhaps with where you are as a business or an organization at the moment. Before we answer the questions, I just want to draw your attention to a couple of things in the pipeline. We've got another webinar coming up on the 21st of March, Campaigning with Confidence, Mastering Paid Social Advertising. That is one specifically relating to paid social advertising. Do have a little look at that if it's something that you're either considering or it may be of value for a team member. And then we've also got one coming up in April about the best website design methods in 2024. We're going to be talking about UX, user experience, website design, look and feel. There's a lot of really, really valuable stuff in there from our digital transformation team. We also have a number of resources on our website. I pointed you towards the social media strategy guide. We keep a lot of our historic great recordings on there as well. So there are some really, really valuable webinars. So do go in and have a little look if there are things that you would like to tap into a little bit more. So a couple of questions. Somebody came through and asked me privately about content marketing. They've struggled to get the team on board with the right topics for content marketing. Any guidance or advice on that? Well, look, I totally understand, because I think that the biggest thing is that the responsibility of marketing shouldn't all just fall on one person's shoulders, right? So like sales and marketing doesn't just begin and end with the sales and marketing manager. It's a company-wide thing. You need to get, I talked before about team ambassadors. You need to get people on board with that, but you also need to make their lives really, really easy. So if you want to tap into a manager or a colleague or somebody else, and you want to get that, valuable content from them, are you giving them the right guidance and nurturing them in order to do that? Maybe you've used a couple of tools and done a bit of top-level keyword research, and you go, look, I really want it on this. Can you cover these 5 areas? Can you have a little look at this for me? Can you come back with your thoughts? Find ways to really get them excited. Another way is to reverse engineer that, which can be really, really good with teams, especially if you want to get team buy-in for content creation. You can sort of go to them and say, well, look, what excites you? What excites you the most about your job? So either if it's content for employer branding or content for marketing, what is it that you find people asking you every day? Let them tell you that first, and then encourage them to develop some content around it. You're giving them a little bit more ownership, but you're also tapping into to the skills, I suppose, and making their life easier. One other question I had come through was specifically around PPC. Somebody's asked about PPC budgets and how to assign PPC budgets, specifically though for recruitment marketing. Now then, interestingly, we've run Google ads for a lot of B2C and B2B, but also for employer branding and recruitment marketing. One of the biggest challenge with Google ads for recruitment marketing is often going to be the cost per click. If you want to be more visible and if you want people to engage, you can be up against the big players. You can be up against Indeed and Reed and job listings and organizations that are investing very, very heavily in paid advertising tactics. So you do need to consider whether you're getting a tangible return on investment. We've often found that the cost per click can be very, very high. And when you think about the volume of applicants who are clicking through, going through, how many of them is it going to take to actually convert, to actually do an application? And when you start working backwards from there, it can become very, very expensive as a longer term marketing tactic. Whereas if you get your SEO right, yes, there's the perhaps investment of having an SEO specialist or working with an agency, but it's laying the foundations for search. It's getting you to a better, stronger, more cost effective, long term place. Paid social media advertising, I touched upon that earlier, can still be very, very valuable for recruitment marketing, for employer branding, but as I say, more for reach, engagement, to excite, to get in front of people, and also still from a bit of a remarketing and a retargeting perspective. So you do want to consider that. And then just touching on it with the B2C, it's all about that balance. You want to do a balance. You don't just want to have that mentality of, if I spend more here, I'll see exactly more of the same. If I spend more here, I'll see exactly more of the same. Consider the cause and effect. When we're doing more on social media and we're upping our social media advertising budget, we may start to see some more organic success. But actually, can we attribute them together? Are people seeing us online and then searching brand and converting? There's so many different ways to approach that. So it's just something to consider with that. Those are a couple of final questions. Did anybody have any further questions that they wanted to ask? Do feel free to either pop them in the chat or to unmute and ask. I'm more than happy to answer any, or as I say, you can always reach out to me on LinkedIn if there's anything else you want to ask. I will give it a moment just in case any come through. No? Perfect. Well, look, I hope you found this session to be beneficial. Thank you so much. It is totally free. Shout out to our charity partner, Youth Talk. We'll be sending the information for that as well. That's our charity partner for 2024. We'll be sending the information for that in the follow-up. So please don't hesitate to offer a little donation there or anything that you so wish. This webinar was free. It's called Youth Talk. It's a mental health charity. But as I say, I will make sure that I send all of those details in the follow-up as well. Thank you for your time. If you have any further questions or anything you'd like to ask, please don't hesitate to reach out to me on LinkedIn. Please also don't hesitate to, let me know if you want to speak with one of our specialists. We have a team of specialists and experts that can help you in these areas. So if I'm not always going to be the best person to answer the question, I have absolutely no doubt that a member of the team will be. Couple of nice messages coming through personally in the chat as well of thank you. So cheers for that. Much appreciated. Have a great rest of the day. All the very best. Look forward to picking up the conversation, and good luck on both your B2C marketing, but also your recruitment and employer branding journey. Thank you ever so much, and have a great rest of the day and a good week. All the very best. Bye-bye.